Eli Navarro had always felt like he belonged somewhere else, somewhere bigger than the small human settlements he grew up in. He didn't have super strength or advanced tech implants like some people from the outer colonies. What he did have was a strange habit of staying calm when everything around him went wrong. His teachers called it reckless bravery. Eli called it just thinking fast. When he received his acceptance message from the Galactic Interstellar Academy, he thought someone was joking. Humans rarely got in. It was a school filled with the brightest and strongest students from dozens of worlds. Eli stared at the glowing screen for minutes, waiting for a second message to say, "Sorry, wrong person." But it never came. He was going to the Academy. His arrival was nothing like the exciting adventure he imagined. The Academy was huge metal towers stretching toward the clouds, wide training grounds buzzing with hovercraft, and students who looked like they belonged in legends. Some had glowing eyes, some wore armor that moved like it was alive, and some looked almost human, but carried themselves with a confidence Eli couldn't fake. A robotic guide scanned his ID chip and led him down a long hallway toward his assigned classroom. At first, Eli tried to admire the place, but the guide kept repeating the same phrase, "Proceeding to Class V09. High-risk designation. High risk for who?" Eli muttered. The guide didn't answer. Robots never answered fun questions. When the doors slid open, Eli stepped into a room filled entirely with girls, every one of them from a different alien species. They all stopped talking at the same moment and stared at him. Some narrowed their eyes. A few tilted their heads like they were studying a curious creature, and others simply looked surprised, which somehow felt worse. Eli froze for a second, then smiled the way he always did when he felt pressure rising in his chest. Hi." No one said anything back. A tall girl with silver hair and bright blue markings on her cheeks finally spoke. "Is this a mistake? A human boy in our class?" Another girl with green eyes and short dark hair leaned back in her chair. "Maybe the Academy wants to test how long he lasts." The room filled with soft laughter, not cruel, exactly, but filled with confidence. They knew they were strong. Eli knew he wasn't like them. And yet, instead of shrinking back, he felt something spark inside him. Excitement, curiosity, maybe even mischief. He walked to the empty seat assigned to him. It was right in the middle of the room, where everyone had a clear view of him. It felt like sitting in the center of a storm. He kept his grin, even though a voice in his head whispered, "You're in trouble." Classes started immediately. Their instructor, a stern woman with metallic eyes, explained that Class V09 better, known as the Valkyrie section, was one of the toughest units in the entire academy. The students here were expected to handle advanced simulations, complex strategy drills, and high-pressure problem-solving challenges. Eli tried to listen closely, but he could feel eyes on him the whole time. Every time he glanced around, someone quickly looked away, pretending they weren't watching him. He didn't blame them. He was the only human, the only boy, and definitely the only person who didn't fit the image of an elite cadet. During the first break, a girl with glowing coral-colored eyes approached him. Eli braced himself for a lecture or an insult, but she only asked, "Why are you smiling?" He shrugged. "Because being scared won't help." She blinked, clearly not expecting that answer. She walked away without replying, but Eli noticed she kept glancing back at him afterward. The real tests began in the afternoon. The class gathered in a training hall where the floor changed shape based on the program selected. Today's session involved reflex challenges, nothing dangerous, but definitely not easy. Targets appeared and disappeared in random patterns. Students had to tap them with a sensor glove before time ran out. The alien girls moved like lightning, their hands flashing across the space. Eli tried his best, but he was noticeably slower. Not embarrassingly slow, but slow enough that the instructor raised an eyebrow. The girls whispered among themselves again. Some sounded impressed that he kept up at all. Others seemed annoyed. Still, Eli didn't let their reactions distract him. If he came here just to impress people, he would have given up already. When the session ended, the instructor looked at him directly. Your reaction speed is below this class's average. However, you adapt quickly. That is unexpected. Eli nodded, unsure whether it was praise or warning. Maybe both. During the next exercise, the class practiced teamwork drills. Eli was paired with 3 girls who didn't seem thrilled about it. Their task was simple: escape a shifting maze before time ran out. The girls rushed ahead, assuming Eli would slow them down. At one point, the maze wall blocked their path completely, and the others argued about which direction to take. Eli quietly studied the pattern of moving walls, noticed a rhythm, and pointed at a spot. That wall opens every 8 seconds. If we wait for 3 more seconds, we can get through. They stared at him, unsure whether to trust him. One girl muttered, "Humans don't calculate that fast." But when the wall shifted exactly the way Eli predicted, the girls followed him through without another word. They finished the maze with seconds to spare. No one thanked him, but no one questioned him afterward either. The day continued like that: small tests, small judgments, small surprises. Some girls seemed irritated that he didn't break down under pressure. Others seemed curious about how he kept managing to solve problems differently than they did. A few even started whispering to him instead of whispering about him. But not everyone was warming up. During the final exercise of the day, Eli caught 3 girls watching him with narrowed eyes. They weren't impressed by him surviving the day. They looked competitive, maybe even offended that someone so different had been placed in their elite class. Eli made a mental note not to get on their bad side. When classes ended, Eli walked out into the bright courtyard, stretching his arms. The academy bustled with activity around him: students practicing flight maneuvers, groups discussing strategy plans, robots carrying supplies across the grounds. Eli felt overwhelmed, but also strangely alive. He sat on a bench and took a long breath. It had been the toughest first day of his life. But he hadn't run away. He hadn't panicked. And most importantly, he hadn't let anyone push him out of place. He thought about the strange silence when he first entered the classroom. The disbelief, the whispered comments, the testing glances. Maybe any normal person would have felt embarrassed or scared. But Eli felt excited. He wasn't here to be average. He was here to face challenges that made his heart race and his mind wake up. He watched the sunset glowing across the academy's skyline and smiled again, tired, sore, but still smiling. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he couldn't wait to find out. In a school filled with the most dangerous and talented girls in the galaxy, he was the odd one out, the unexpected one. The human boy in a class where no human had ever been placed before. And yet, somehow, he felt like this strange, intimidating place might finally be where he belonged. The next morning, Eli woke up feeling like someone had placed a small planet on his shoulders. His muscles were sore from the previous day's training, and he wondered if this was how it always felt to study at the Galactic Interstellar Academy. Still, even as he stretched and winced, he couldn't help smiling. He was still here. He hadn't been kicked out, and he hadn't fainted during training. For now, that felt like an achievement. As he walked toward the classroom, he noticed a few students staring at him again. But the looks were different this time. Yesterday, the stares were filled with disbelief. Today, they carried something else: curiosity. Maybe even a tiny bit of respect. When he entered class VO9, the room quieted for a moment. Not as intensely as the first day, but enough for him to feel the pressure. He nodded at the nearest group of girls. They didn't smile back, but they didn't glare either. It felt like progress. The instructor stepped in and wasted no time. "Today," she announced, "we begin combat adaptive training." Eli's stomach dropped. "Combat training? Already?" Before he could panic, the instructor added, "No physical fights. Only reflex and environmental control. No one will be harmed." Eli relaxed a little. Not fully, but enough to breathe again. The training hall transformed into a floating platform surrounded by holographic projections that reacted to movement. The objective was to move through the course without letting the hostile elements touch you. Some elements moved fast. Others changed shape or direction. The class seemed excited. Eli felt like he was about to step into a storm with a paper umbrella. The moment the exercise began, the girls shot forward with incredible speed. Eli followed, trying to copy their movements. He ducked under spinning beams of light, dodged floating obstacles, and slid across shifting panels. His movements weren't as smooth as the others, but he was quick to notice patterns. He spotted when the obstacles repeated their timing and when the floor panels moved in cycles. The more he watched, the easier the course felt. When one of the girls ahead of him was about to trip on a shifting tile, Eli called out, "Step left now." She glanced back in surprise, but did as he said. The tile dropped at the same moment, leaving her standing safely on the edge. She didn't stop to thank him, but she gave him a small nod as she continued moving. It wasn't much, but it meant something. By the time the exercise ended, the instructor looked impressed, though she didn't show too much emotion. "Better than expected," she said to Eli. "Your reflexes are not remarkable, but your pattern recognition is." Eli scratched his neck. "You? You?" Some girls laughed softly at his awkwardness, and for the first time, the laughter didn't feel like it was aimed at him. After the drills, the class moved to the zero-gravity chamber. The moment gravity shut off, Eli floated upward like a balloon someone had let go of. The girls moved gracefully, using their limbs and balance to control their positions. Eli flailed for a moment, trying not to look ridiculous. One of the girls grabbed his sleeve and steadied him. She didn't say anything, just helped him get oriented. He thanked her, and she nodded before drifting away. The exercise involved reaching a glowing orb in the center of the chamber. It looked easy, but every time someone got close, the orb shot away in another direction. It required teamwork, something the class wasn't used to involving Eli in. But when the orb darted past him, Eli instinctively stretched out his arm and tapped a panel on the wall. A blast of air redirected the orb's path, pushing it toward a group of girls who quickly captured it. They stared at him with surprise. "How did you know to do that?" one of them asked. "I didn't," he admitted. "It just looked like it would work." More soft laughter. This time, fully friendly, but not everyone was happy. Off to the side, the same trio of girls who seemed bothered by Eli yesterday were whispering again. Their expressions weren't curious or amused. They were irritated. They clearly didn't like the idea of a human boy adding anything useful to the class. Eli noticed them, but didn't say anything. Later that day, during a simulation exercise, the trio's behavior grew more obvious. The class was placed inside a holographic battlefield where they had to locate an energy beacon using coordination and quick thinking. The environment would shift randomly, and students had to rely on communication. As the class split into teams, Eli found himself lagging behind. The trio used the opportunity to move in his direction, placing themselves in front of him. "You're slowing us down," one of them said flatly. Eli kept his voice calm. "I'm doing my best." "Then try harder," another girl snapped. They pushed past him, nearly knocking him off balance. Eli clenched his jaw but didn't respond. Fighting back would only make things worse. He understood that some of them needed time to accept him, or maybe they never would. Still, he stayed focused on the goal. While the others rushed through the unstable terrain, Eli took a more careful path. He studied the shifting ground, spotted safe points, and avoided the unstable areas. Soon, he reached a high ledge that gave him a view of the whole arena. He spotted a faint blue glow in the distance. The beacon dot. He quickly sent the coordinates to the group. The class leader, Astra, glanced at her wrist display when the message appeared. She scanned the location and confirmed it. Eli had been correct. Everyone redirect to the new point, she ordered. The class changed course immediately. They reached the beacon faster than expected. When the simulation ended, Astra walked toward Eli. Her expression was difficult to read, but her eyes weren't cold anymore. "You have good instincts," she said simply. Eli shrugged. "Thanks, I just looked around." "That's exactly why it worked," she replied before walking away. For Eli, it was one of the biggest compliments he had received since arriving at the academy. But the trio didn't seem happy at all. They whispered among themselves again, exchanging frustrated glances. Eli could feel they were planning something that wouldn't feel like regular training. That night, after dinner, Eli was on his way back to his dorm when he heard footsteps behind him. He turned to see the same 3 girls approaching. Their expressions were serious, but not violent. More like they wanted to confront him privately. "We don't think you belong here," the first girl said. "This class is meant for the strongest students in the galaxy." "And you think I'm weak?" Eli asked quietly. "You're human," another girl answered. "That's the same thing." Eli inhaled slowly. "Maybe I'm not strong like all of you, but I'm not here to prove anything to you. I'm here because I worked hard to get here." The third girl stepped closer. "Just stay out of our way." Eli didn't argue. He didn't shout or try to defend himself. He simply nodded once. He understood their fear. Their class had always been their pride. He was the first outsider, the first unpredictable element. He didn't blame them. The next day, something changed. Even though the trio still watched him with narrow eyes, the rest of the class treated him differently. A few asked him questions during breaks. Another girl shared her notes with him when he missed a detail. And during one of the drills, someone even said, "Good job," when he completed a difficult sequence. Small things, quiet things, but they mattered. Eli realized something important. He didn't need to be the strongest or the fastest. He just needed to keep showing up, keep trying, keep thinking in his own way. Even if he was different. By the end of the day, when he walked out of the training hall exhausted and sweaty, he noticed Astra watching him. She didn't say anything. She simply nodded once, a silent sign of respect. Eli felt a new kind of warmth in his chest. Maybe he wasn't fully accepted yet, but he was no longer just the human boy who didn't belong. He had survived another day. He had proven himself again. And slowly, the class was starting to see him not as a mistake, but as someone worth having around. For the first time, he felt hope that this place, this dangerous class filled with powerful girls, might one day feel like home. Eli woke up on the morning of the Obsidian trial with a strange mix of excitement and fear twisting inside him. The academy halls buzzed with tension. Even the strongest students walked with serious expressions. Everyone knew this test was different. It wasn't just another training session or simulation. It was the hardest trial the academy offered, and it only happened once a year. Many students never finished it. No human had ever tried. As Eli walked toward the gathering area, he saw the entire class lined up, their faces focused and unreadable. Astra stood in front, calm as usual, while the instructors inspected equipment and checked the survival pods. When Eli joined the line, a few girls glanced at him. Some looked nervous for him. Others looked surprised he'd shown up. The trio who disliked him kept their eyes forward, pretending he wasn't there at all. The lead instructor addressed the class. The Obsidian trial will take place on the moon of Archon 5. Conditions will be harsh. Temperature will shift quickly. Storms may appear without warning. Your goal is simple. Survive 3 days as a team. Simple, Eli thought. Just survive an environment that could freeze, crush, or burn you. No pressure. Each student received a small wrist device that monitored vital signs and tracked location. The instructor continued, no outside help. No communication with the academy. Stay together and use your strengths. If you work alone, you will fail. Eli felt a small shiver. Staying together didn't sound that simple. Their class wasn't known for being friendly or united. Many of them were fierce competitors who preferred working alone. But maybe this trial would change that. The transport ship arrived with a quiet hum. The doors opened and the class stepped inside. The seats vibrated softly as the engines powered up. Eli took a seat near the back. Astra unexpectedly sat next to him. She didn't look at him, but she spoke quietly. Stay alert. The trial isn't just about strength. It's about how well we adapt. Eli nodded. I'll do my best. I know, she said, surprising him. Just don't push yourself too far. Humans have limits. The engines roared and the ship lifted off. As they flew toward Archon 5, the window darkened to protect their eyes from the glare. Eli thought about his first day at the academy. How everyone stared at him. How uncertain everything felt. Now he was flying to a dangerous moon with the same people who once doubted he belonged there. The ship landed with a heavy thud. When the doors opened, a gust of cold wind rushed in. The sky was dark and filled with rolling clouds. The ground looked like cracked rock mixed with sharp, glass-like formations that glimmered faintly under the weak light. The class stepped out, adjusting their suits. Astra gathered everyone around. We move together. No one separates from the group. The trio at the side muttered something under their breath, but Astra ignored them. They began walking across the harsh terrain. The wind howled, and dust swirled around their boots. After only an hour, the first problem appeared. A deep rumbling sound rose from under them. The ground shifted. Cracks opened. Several students stumbled. Eli noticed a pattern in the vibrations. Move right, he yelled. The class listened instinctively. A large section of ground collapsed, just where they had been standing seconds earlier. A few girls shot him shocked looks. Even Astra seemed impressed for a moment. You felt that? She asked. I heard it. The cracks started forming in a line. Astra nodded once. Good. The class continued carefully. But the weather changed faster than expected. Thick fog rolled in, blocking their view. The temperature dropped sharply. Even the alien girls, who are used to extreme climates, looked uncomfortable. Eli shivered. This place hates us, he muttered, trying to lighten the mood. A few girls chuckled softly, but the trial didn't get easier. By the second evening, the wind grew violent, bending even the tallest rock structures. They found a sheltered area beneath an overhang where they could rest, but they didn't sleep well. Strange noises echoed around them, and the ground trembled now and then. On the morning of the third day, the storm hit. It wasn't like the storms Eli had seen on Earth. This one came with a sharp, electrical charge that lit up the sky in blue flashes. The wind cut like blades, and the ground shook as if the moon itself was angry. The class tried to stay together, but the storm scattered them. Eli felt his feet slide as the wind pushed him sideways. He tried to grab onto a rock, but missed. When the dust cleared for a brief moment, he saw Nira the Quiet. fierce girl who rarely spoke stranded on a thin ridge that was starting to crack apart. The others were too far away to reach her in time. Eli didn't think. He just ran. The wind nearly threw him off balance, but he kept going. His boots slipped on the sharp rocks. Dust filled his eyes. His heart raced faster with every step. He reached the ridge just as a large piece broke off beneath Nira. She tried to climb up, but couldn't find her grip. Eli dropped to the ground and stretched out his hand. "Take it." Nira hesitated, shocked. Then she grabbed him. The force nearly pulled Eli off the ridge, but he pressed his boots into the ground and pulled with everything he had. His muscles burned. His arms shook, but he didn't let go. Finally, Nira crawled onto stable ground. Both of them collapsed, breathing hard. She stared at him for a long moment and whispered, "Why did you do that?" Eli wiped dust from his face. "Because you needed help." She looked away, but he saw the emotion in her eyes. Gratitude, respect, maybe even something softer when the storm finally weakened. The team regrouped. Some girls were bruised, some exhausted, but everyone was alive. Astra checked the group, making sure no one was missing. When she saw Eli and Nira covered in dust and scratches, she understood what had happened without them saying a word. As they prepared for the final stage of the trial, Astra did something unexpected. She turned to Eli. "You lead us from here." Eli blinked. "Me? Why?" "Because you see things we miss," Astra said. "You stay calm when others panic. And you risked yourself for a teammate. That's leadership." The others didn't argue. Even the trio stayed quiet, though their expressions were complicated. Eli swallowed hard, then nodded. He didn't feel like a leader, but he wasn't going to back away now. He guided the group through the last stretch, using patterns he spotted in the terrain, avoiding unstable areas and predicting weather shifts. His decisions weren't perfect, but they were good enough. The class moved steadily and stayed together. When they finally reached the extraction point, the relief was overwhelming. The ship landed, the doors opened, and the entire class climbed aboard, exhausted but proud. Back at the academy, the instructors reviewed their performance. The results were clear. Class V09 had completed the Obsidian trial with the highest team coordination score in the Academy's history. Astra placed a hand on Eli's shoulder. "You earned this," she said quietly. The rest of the class gathered around him. Some patted his back. Some smiled. Nira gave him a small nod that meant more than any words. Eli looked around at the group, the most dangerous and talented girls in the galaxy, and felt a warmth grow inside him. These were the same people who doubted him, tested him, and even tried to push him away. Now they stood with him, and as tired as he was, Eli couldn't stop himself from grinning. Not because he felt superior. Not because he wanted praise. He grinned because he had finally found a place where he could belong. A place where he could grow. A place where he wasn't just the odd human boy in a dangerous class. He was part of the team, and this was only the beginning.